What if the secret to speaking fluent English wasn't to study more, but to stop studying completely? This is the true story of how a man went from being terrified of speaking to landing his dream job by using one simple mind shift. To discover his life-changing method, subscribe now and click the notification bell so you never miss the stories that will transform your English and your life. My name is Ethan. I'm 25 years old now, but this story begins a few years ago when I was just a quiet 16-year-old boy growing up in a small town in the Philippines. I want you to understand my situation. I wasn't poor, I wasn't lazy, and I wasn't stupid, but I was silent. Every time someone spoke English, I froze. It happened in class, in front of people, even on the internet. My lips would stay shut, my mind would go completely blank, and I hated myself for it. I remember one afternoon in my high school English class. The sun was shining outside, but inside I felt cold with fear. We had a speaking activity. It was simple, really. Everyone had to stand up and say just one thing about their dream for the future. When it was my turn, I stood up. My heart was pounding inside my chest like a drum. My palms were wet with sweat. I looked out at the faces of my 32 classmates, and I opened my mouth. But my English, it came out broken. Like this: I want to go. America. Be doctor. They laughed. It was not a loud, mean laugh. It was a soft, quiet sound like a whisper across the room. But I could hear it. And that soft laughter, it was enough to kill every single drop of confidence that was left inside me. I quickly sat down. My ears were burning with shame, and my eyes held back tears that I refused to let fall. In that moment, sitting at my small wooden desk, I promised myself something dark. A promise born from pain. I will never speak English again. Here is the truth that people often don't talk about. I understood English perfectly well. I could read it in books and on websites. I could write it in my notebooks. But speaking was my prison. The people around me, they thought I was dumb. Even my teachers, they eventually gave up on me. When we had group projects, they would say things like, "Oh, just let Ethan do the typing. He doesn't talk anyway." Do you know how that feels? To be invisible in every room you walk into. To have so many ideas and dreams and feelings inside your head. But to have no voice to share them. I started to believe what people said about me. You're just shy. You're not good with English. You're the quiet one. But I wasn't quiet. I was terrified. When I turned 19, I needed a job, so I applied to a call center. They worked the night shift and they needed English-speaking agents. During the interview, I lied. I told them I could speak English. They believed me. They gave me a headset, a computer, and 1 week to prove myself. My first call came. I panicked. The client on the other end of the line said, "Hi, can you help me reset my password?" I took a shaky breath and said, Yes, sir. Give me password. I reset you." He got angry. His voice became sharp and cold. He said, "Are you even trained to speak English?" And then he hung up. That night I didn't go home. I couldn't face my family. Instead, I went to the rooftop of the office building. I sat on the cold concrete looking at the thousands of city lights shining below me, and I cried. I let all the tears I had held back for years just fall. "I can't live like this," I whispered to the night sky. "I don't want to feel like a failure forever." I took a deep, deep breath. And in that moment of complete despair, I said something that would change my life. A new idea, a new hope. If I can think in my language in Tagalog, I thought, then I can train my brain to think in English too. No more translating in my head. No more fear. That night, I made a decision. I went home, picked up my phone, and deleted all my grammar apps. I took my heavy English textbooks and I put them away in a dusty corner. I said to myself, from now on, I will not study English. I will live in English. Every thought, every word, every feeling, I would try to think it in English. Not perfect English, not beautiful English, just English. I started very small. At home, I would look at a spoon and say to myself, this is a spoon. It's shiny. I use it to eat soup. I did this with everything in my small room. I looked in the mirror and said, this is a mirror. I see my face. I am tired, but I will not stop. I picked up my clothes. This shirt is blue. It smells like detergent. I was reprogramming my brain just like a baby learns a language for the first time. One object, one simple sentence, one thought at a time. And the craziest part, it started working. After about a week of doing this, I noticed something strange. When I looked at my bag, I didn't first think of the word for it in Tagalog. My brain just thought, bag, directly in English. There was no translation, no delay, just the English word. Then one night, after 2 weeks of this crazy new routine, I had a dream. In the dream, I was talking to my future boss. We were in a bright, modern office discussing a project, and I was speaking English. I was speaking it fluently without any effort. When I woke up, I sat up in bed, my heart pounding, but this time with excitement. I was in shock. I just dreamed in English. My brain is learning. It felt like magic, but it wasn't magic. It was the method. And this moment, this dream was the beginning of a journey that would change my entire life. That dream showed me something I had never felt before: hope. It showed me that my brain was starting to trust English. That maybe, just maybe, I wasn't stuck anymore. I had spoken English in my sleep. And now I wanted to speak it in my real life, even if nobody else was listening. So that morning, before I touched my phone, before I brushed my teeth, I sat up straight in my bed, and I said my first words of the day out loud in English. I am awake. I feel tired, but I am ready. Today, I will speak English. That's where my new life truly began. I stopped trying to study English from the outside and started living inside the language itself. I said out loud to my empty room, I am not weak. I am not lazy. I am not stupid. I am just doing it the wrong way. I had spent years of my life trying to study English, but not one single day trying to live in English. And that became my new mission. From now on, I will stop studying. I will train my brain to think in English just like I think in my native language, not by reading rules from a book, not by memorizing long lists of words, but by living inside the language. That was my new promise to myself. I didn't know exactly how I would do it, but I knew this one thing for sure. If my brain could learn to think in my own language, then it could also learn to think in English. When I woke up the next day, I didn't check my phone like I used to. Instead, I sat in silence for just a minute. Then, I said, slowly speaking to myself, I am awake. My body is tired, but I am breathing. I am here. I will speak English today, even if it's only with myself. I looked around my room. I saw my chair and said, this is a chair. It is made of wood. It is strong. I sit on it. I touched my blanket. This is soft. I like it. I opened the window. The air is cool. I see the trees. The sky is gray. It may rain today. Was it simple? Yes, it was very simple. But was it powerful? It was more powerful than anything I had ever done before. Because for the first time in my life, I was thinking and speaking in English without fear. There was no teacher watching me. There was no pressure to be perfect. There was no test to pass. It was just me and the words I knew. My first rule was this: keep it simple, but speak daily. I didn't try to use big, complicated words. I didn't try to sound smart. I just described my life. Everything I could see, touch, feel, smell, or do. When I brushed my teeth, I would say in my mind, I am brushing my teeth. The water is cold. My mouth feels fresh. When I made my simple breakfast, I would narrate the process. I crack the eggs. I use a little salt. I wait for it to cook. I eat slowly. Every single sentence was simple. Every moment became practice. And every second, my brain was learning a new way to think. Soon, something started to change. At first, for the first few days, I had to force myself. I had to consciously remember to say the words out loud or in my head. But by day 4, I noticed something I never expected. I looked down at my shoes, and my brain automatically said shoes. Not the word in Tagalog, not a translation. Just the word shoes. It was automatic. It was a small thing, but it felt huge. When I heard people speaking English in public on the bus or in a store, I didn't get confused anymore. I didn't feel lost. I started catching the words. I started feeling the meaning behind them. I was still slow, of course, but the wall in my head, that big, thick wall between thinking and speaking, it finally had a small crack in it. And that small crack gave me so much hope. Let me explain to you exactly what I did every day so that you can follow this too if you want. First morning, thinking practice. As soon as I woke up, I would spend 10 to 15 minutes just describing everything I saw and felt, all in English. My bed, my window, the light coming in, my feelings. No grammar rules, just short, direct sentences. Second, object talk. Throughout the day, every time I looked at an object, I said something about it in English. This is a table. It is brown. This cup is hot. I am drinking coffee. This phone is old. It has a crack in the screen. Even if I was in public, I would do it silently in my mind. Third, internal dialogues. This was very important. I started having small, fake conversations in my head. For example, if I imagined someone asking me, "What are you doing, Ethan?" I would reply in my head, "I am cooking dinner. I am tired. I had a long day at work." These small imaginary conversations helped me practice for real-life situations like ordering food, talking to a friend, or going for a job interview. I practiced asking for directions. I practiced explaining my feelings. Every night I created new scenes in my head. I would imagine walking into a restaurant and saying, "Hi, can I see the menu, please?" I would imagine calling a friend and saying, "Hey, how are you feeling today?" Even if no one was there, I was building a new language inside my brain. I changed everything around me into English. I changed my phone's language settings to English. I started watching my favorite videos without subtitles in my language. I listened to slow English podcasts while I was eating or cleaning. I followed English meme pages and tried my best to understand the jokes. I stopped following any content in my native language. Was it easy? No, of course not. Did I understand everything? No. But every mistake I made, every word I didn't know, it made my brain work harder. I learned to guess the meaning from the context. I didn't understand every single word, but I understood the general meaning. And I learned that meaning is more important than perfection. When I saw a sentence like, "I'm starving," I didn't know the word starving. But I saw a picture of a very hungry person, and I guessed it meant very, very hungry. And now that word is stuck in my mind forever. This is how a child learns. And this is how I trained my brain, too. One day, I learned about a powerful technique called shadowing. Here's how it works. You play a short video or audio clip in English. You listen to one sentence. You pause the video. Then you repeat that exact sentence, trying to copy the same voice, the same emotion, and the same rhythm. I started doing this every evening for just 10 minutes. I chose movie clips, interviews, and short speeches. And I didn't just copy the words, I tried to copy the feeling, the speed, the music of the language. After about 7 days of shadowing, I was talking to myself, and I spoke my first full sentence without thinking. I said, "I'm not sure if I can do it, but I will try anyway." That sentence, it just came out of me. There was no translation in my head. I smiled so hard that I almost cried. Because it meant one thing: my brain had finally started to think in English. In the final week of that first month, something happened. I got a message from an old online friend. She was a girl I had met on a language exchange app a long time ago. She said, "Hey, want to have a voice call this weekend?" Before I would have said no, I would have made an excuse. But this time, I said yes. I was still nervous. I still felt scared. But I wasn't the old me anymore. This time, I was ready to try. Her name was Isabel. She lived far away in Canada. We had been texting for a few weeks on a language exchange app. I had always avoided calling her. I would tell her I was busy, or I was tired, or I wasn't feeling well. But the real truth was I was afraid. I was afraid that I would freeze. I was afraid that I would embarrass myself. I was afraid that she would think I was stupid. But one evening, she messaged me. "Hey," she wrote, "I was thinking, do you want to try a short voice call this weekend, just for 5 minutes?" I stared at that message on my phone screen for 15 minutes. My heart was racing. My palms were sweating. The old voice in my mind screamed, "Say no, you're not ready." But something else inside me, a new voice that was quiet but stronger, whispered, "You've trained for this. You're not perfect, but you are ready to try." And so I took a breath, and I replied, "Yes, let's try." That entire night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the dark ceiling, replaying the possible conversation in my head. "Hi, how are you?" "I'm fine. What about you?" "What's the weather like there?" "It's hot today." I practiced these simple lines like an actor before a big and important scene. But the fear didn't go away. I felt like I was preparing for a war, not a simple 5-minute call. Because to me, that call was more than just a conversation. It was a test. It was the moment that would tell me, are you still the old scared Ethan, or have you really changed? The moment arrived. It was Sunday evening. The call was scheduled for 7:00 p.m. At 6:45, I was already prepared. I had cleaned my room. I had washed my face. I even put on a clean shirt, even though it was just an audio call. I wanted to feel confident. At 6:58, my phone vibrated. On the screen it said, "Incoming call, Isabel, Canada." My finger hovered over the green button on the screen. I took one last deep breath and I answered. "Hello?" I said. There was a short pause. Then I heard her voice. It was clear, cheerful, and very kind. "Hi, Ethan, wow, it's so nice to finally talk to you." And in that moment, everything I had practiced disappeared. I froze again. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. I tried to speak, but my tongue felt heavy, and my heart was beating like a drum against my ribs. Finally, I forced the words out. Hi, Isabel. Yes, nice to talk. Me too." It didn't sound fluent. It didn't sound natural, but it was real. She must have heard the nervousness in my voice because she said, "Don't worry. Take your time. I know it's hard at first. You're doing great already." Those words, they felt like medicine for my fear. I smiled a real smile this time, and slowly I started speaking. For the first 5 minutes, I told her about my day using very basic sentences. I woke up at 7:00. I went to work. I came back home. I feel tired. She asked me simple questions. What kind of food do you like? Do you like the weather in your city? What's your favorite movie? And I answered. I answered slowly, but I answered. Sometimes I paused for a long time. Sometimes I made mistakes. Sometimes I had to say, wait, wait, while I was trying to find the right word in my head. But I never gave up. And for every single sentence that I completed, I felt something grow inside of me. It was confidence. That 5-minute call became an 18-minute call. And in those 18 minutes, I learned something incredibly powerful, something I want every single English learner to know. First, it's okay to be slow. I wasn't fast, but I was honest. I took my time. Sometimes I said, wait, I need a second to find the word. And that is okay. You are not in a race. You are in a conversation. People don't need your speed. They need your understanding. Second, it's okay to make mistakes. At one point I said, I very like pizza. I knew it was wrong as soon as I said it. She knew it was wrong. But you know what she did? She didn't laugh at me. She laughed kindly and said, oh, you mean you really like pizza? I said, yes, that's what I wanted to say. And just like that, I learned something new. Not from a textbook, not from a video, but from a real human connection. The biggest lie we believe is that people will laugh at our English. But most people, especially native speakers, are impressed when you try. They respect your effort. Isabel didn't care that my English wasn't perfect. She cared that I was present, that I was trying. And in those 18 minutes, she helped me more than 18 months of studying ever did. She showed me that I don't need to be perfect to be understood. When the call finally ended, I sat there in the silence of my room. My heart was still racing, but I felt free. For the first time in my life, I had spoken English with a native speaker, without fear, without shame, and without quitting. And even though I made many mistakes, I spoke. I listened. I replied. I lived inside the language, and I realized something that night. You don't become fluent in one day, but you win the war one sentence at a time. The next morning, I woke up early, and instead of just whispering to myself or doing fake conversations in my head, I recorded myself. Yes, I took my phone, opened the voice recorder, and I hit record. I spoke about my day in English. Today is Monday. I feel excited. Yesterday, I had my first English call. I was very nervous, but I did it. I listened back to that recording, and honestly, it was bad. My accent was strong. My words were slow. My grammar was messy, but it was my voice, in English. And I smiled, because that was progress. Now everything was clear to me. I didn't need 100 grammar books. I didn't need perfect, expensive lessons. I just needed a daily habit of thinking in English, the courage to speak, even if I was afraid, the willingness to be wrong, and the heart to keep trying, no matter how awkward or difficult it felt. That is how fluency is born. Not in classrooms, but in the quiet courage of daily practice. So I made a new goal for myself. Now, I decided I will create my own English world. A world that I live in, speak in, think in, and grow in. And that is exactly what I did. Let me tell you how I did it, every single detail. I turned my room into an English lab. When I walked into my room that night, I looked at it with a new purpose. My bed, my table, my mirror, my shelves, everything in that room became a tool for learning. I took some sticky notes and I labeled objects in English: door, window, curtain, pillow, light switch. I also wrote short phrases. Turn off the light. Make your bed. Keep your desk clean. Every time I touched something, I whispered the word in English. I didn't do this just once or twice. I did this every single day. Because repetition is what builds the brain. You don't build muscle by going to the gym one time. You build it by showing up daily. The same is true for English. I turned my tiny room into a full-time English learning space. No teacher, no internet required. Just me, my brain, and my room. One of the most powerful things I ever did, and something I still do, is this. I stood in front of my mirror for 10 minutes every day, and I talked to myself in English. I didn't care how stupid it looked. Because what I was doing was deeper than just language. I was building confidence. I would look at myself in the eyes and say, "Hi, Ethan. How are you today?" I feel tired. I didn't sleep well last night, but I'm okay. You can do this. Just speak slowly. Don't worry about making mistakes. Sometimes I pretended I was giving a presentation. Good morning, everyone. Today, I want to talk about why learning English changed my life. Sometimes I imagined I was in a job interview. Why do you want this job? Because I want to grow. I want to work internationally. I believe I can do this. I even practiced arguments. No, I disagree. I think we should wait. Why give me a reason? Because the timing is not right. We need to prepare more. I was training my brain not just to think in English, but to argue, to defend, to express, and to persuade all while staring at my own reflection. I did this every single day, and it changed everything. Because now I wasn't as afraid of speaking in front of other people. I had already spoken in front of myself 100 times. Here's another thing I did that made a huge difference. I started creating daily voice recordings like my own mini podcast. Nothing professional, no special microphone, just my phone. I would open the recorder app, press the red button, and just speak freely. Today is Wednesday. I had a long day at work. I talked to a customer who was very rude, and I didn't know how to explain something in English. I made a mistake, but I learned something new. Don't panic. Just pause, breathe, and try again. The first time I listened to my own voice, I hated it. My accent felt so strong. My voice sounded strange to me. I didn't like the way I pronounced certain words. But I kept going. Every night I recorded 5 to 10 minutes of my thoughts. Sometimes about my day. Sometimes about a topic like travel or culture or money or confidence. And slowly, I started noticing 3 big things. 1, my ideas started flowing faster. I didn't pause as much. My sentences came out more naturally. 2, my vocabulary grew. When I forgot a word while speaking, I would write it down, search for it later, and then try to use it in my recording the next day. And 3, my fear of speaking disappeared. Because I was speaking to myself every single day and learning from my own mistakes. Recording myself was like building a relationship with my own English voice. And that voice got stronger, smoother, and more confident with each passing day. You have probably heard this advice before: watch English movies. But that's not enough. I didn't just watch English movies. I used them like a tool. And I'll tell you exactly how. Step 1. I chose movies I already loved. Because I already knew the story, I didn't need to stress about understanding every single word. Step 2. I watched for only 10 minutes. I didn't try to watch the full movie. I would play just 10 minutes, and that's all. And I would focus on listening, pausing, and shadowing. Let me give you a real example from the movie, The Pursuit of Happiness. There is a line where the father says to his son, "Don't ever let somebody tell you, you can't do something, not even me." All right. I paused the movie right there. I said the line out loud. Don't ever let somebody tell you, You can't do something. Not even me. All right. I said it again, but slower. Then faster. Then with more emotion. Don't ever let somebody tell you, you can't do something. I wasn't just learning English. I felt like I was becoming English. A few weeks later, I joined some English learning groups on Facebook and other online forums. I didn't join to ask for grammar help. I joined to connect with people. And here is what I did. I posted short paragraphs in English about my day. I asked simple questions like, "What's your favorite childhood memory?" I replied to other people's posts with thoughtful comments. I started sending short voice messages to other learners from different countries. I gave feedback to others kindly. I didn't care if I made grammar mistakes. I just showed up every day as a speaker, not as a student. And people responded. They said things like, "Your English is simple, but it's very strong. You explain things so clearly. You speak with a lot of feeling." And I smiled. Because this was the first time in my life that I was being seen not as the silent learner, but as a real English speaker. This may sound like a small thing, but it was huge. I stopped saying, "I'm learning English," and I started saying, "I speak English. I'm improving, but I speak." Because your identity shapes your ability. If you keep telling yourself, "I'm learning," your brain believes you are always behind. But if you tell yourself, "I speak," your brain works harder to prove that statement true. So I told myself, "Ethan, you are not a student anymore. You are a speaker. Now speak like one. Think like one. Walk like one." After about 40 days of following this system, something incredible happened. I was sitting in a cafe, and a tourist asked me for help with directions, and I responded to her in full, complete English. "Sure," I said. "Just walk down this road, take the second left, and the museum will be right in front of you." The words came out naturally. There was no hesitation, no translation in my head, no fear. I sat back down at my table and smiled. Because that was the moment I realized I am no longer just training my brain to think in English. Now I am living in it. I wasn't fluent, not yet. But I was alive in English. I could talk to myself. I could reply to messages. I could join conversations. And now I wanted more. I didn't just want to practice anymore. I wanted to perform. And the universe gave me that chance exactly when I was ready. It was a Thursday afternoon. I had just come back from my shift at work and was eating my usual simple dinner: rice, eggs, and some vegetables. My phone buzzed. I checked the message. It was from a startup company that I had applied to months ago. I had completely forgotten about it. The message said, "Hi Ethan, we have reviewed your application. We would like to invite you for a video interview this Saturday. The interview will be in English. Please let us know if you are available." My heart skipped a beat. I read the message again, and then a third time. I sat back in my chair in silence. I wasn't expecting this. I didn't feel prepared for it. And that old, fearful voice inside me returned. "You can't do this," it whispered. "What if you freeze again? What if you mess up?" But then the new voice, the stronger one, spoke softly. "Ethan, you have been preparing for this every single day. You may not be perfect, but you are ready." I took a deep breath, typed my reply slowly, and pressed send. "Yes, I am available. Saturday works perfectly for me." I had 2 days, 48 hours to prepare for something I had feared for years. A full job interview in English, face-to-face on camera. But this time, I wasn't going to memorize answers like I did in the past. I wasn't going to write long scripts and try to speak like a robot. Instead, I created my own training method based on the system that had already changed my life. Let me tell you everything I did, step by step. Step 1. I practiced answering questions out loud. I searched online for common job interview questions. Tell me about yourself. Why do you want this job? What are your strengths and weaknesses? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Why should we hire you? But instead of writing the answers down, I stood in front of my mirror, pressed record on my phone, and spoke each answer out loud. Not once, not twice. 10 times. Each time I changed a few words, tried a different tone of voice, corrected my grammar slightly, and spoke again. When I listened to my recordings, I didn't just focus on the words. I focused on my confidence, my tone, my speed, my clarity. I treated myself like a speaker, not a student. And with each repetition, I felt stronger. Step 2. I rehearsed with an imaginary interviewer. I pulled an empty chair into the middle of my room, and I pretended someone was sitting there. I created the full scene. I sat with my back straight. I looked into the empty chair. I imagined someone asking me questions. Then I would answer. Thank you for the question. My name is Ethan. I come from the Philippines. I have been working in customer service for 2 years, and I am now focused on building my career internationally. I acted out the full interview like it was a movie. And I did this again and again until it didn't feel like acting anymore. It felt real because I had made it real in my mind first. Step 3. I studied phrases for time and clarity. I knew I might get nervous and forget some words during the real interview. So I prepared helpful English phrases that I could use when I needed time to think. Phrases like, "That's a great question. Let me think for a moment." Or, "I'm not sure I've done that before, but here's what I think." Or, "Could you please repeat the question?" Or, "I'd love to share more about that." These simple phrases were like my safety net. They bought me time. They kept the conversation moving, and they made me sound calm even when I was nervous inside. Step 4. I slept early and visualized success. The night before the interview, I did not stay up all night practicing. I had learned by now that a tired mind cannot perform well. So I ate an early dinner, took a warm shower, and sat quietly for 15 minutes. I closed my eyes and I visualized the full interview. I imagined myself opening Zoom smiling, listening carefully, answering each question slowly and clearly, and ending the call with confidence. I kept repeating in my mind, "You will do well. You are ready. You are enough." Then I went to sleep early and slept peacefully, because now I believed in myself, not because someone else told me I was good, but because I had trained my brain to think, speak, and live in English every single day. The interview day arrived. It was Saturday morning, 9:58 a.m. I sat in front of my laptop camera, ready, a water bottle next to me, my notes beside me. My hands were shaking a little, but my heart was steady. At exactly 10:00 a.m., the Zoom call began. 3 people appeared on the screen, 2 women and 1 man. One of them smiled and said, "Hi, Ethan. Thank you for joining us today. We're excited to learn more about you." I smiled back and replied, "Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here." And just like that, it started. Question 1. Tell us about yourself. I took a deep breath and I began. My name is Ethan. I come from the Philippines. I've worked in customer support for over 2 years. I'm passionate about communication learning and working with international clients. Over the past few months, I've also trained myself to improve my English fluency, and I'm excited to grow in a global environment. It wasn't perfect, but it was clear, it was confident, and it was real. They nodded and smiled and moved to the next question. Question 2. Why do you want this job? I answered slowly. Because I want to grow. I want to be in a company that challenges me and helps me improve. I've seen your company's values and I feel they match my own. Also, working with an international team will help me develop not just my skills, but also my way of thinking." The woman on the left smiled and wrote something down on her notepad. I knew I had done well. Question 3. What is your weakness? This was a tricky question, but I was ready. I think sometimes I can overthink small things. I always want to be perfect. But I am learning that progress is more important than perfection. That is something I have improved by practicing English every day, speaking even when I'm not sure, and learning from my mistakes. They all smiled at that, because it wasn't just a textbook answer. It was my truth. The final question: do you have any questions for us? I replied, yes, I do. What does growth look like in your company? How can someone like me who is learning fast continue to improve once I'm inside the team? They seemed surprised. They said it was a great question. And that's when I knew. I wasn't just surviving this interview. I was owning it. The call ended after 30 minutes. I thanked them, again closed the laptop, and sat back in my chair. My shirt was wet from sweat. My heart was still racing. But I had done it. I had just completed my first full English job interview, and I hadn't memorized a single line. I had lived the answers. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I am not scared of English anymore. I don't just study this language. I speak it. I live it. I belong to it. I didn't expect to get a reply so soon. But the next morning, as I was making my morning tea, my phone lit up. It was a new email. The subject line said, "Congratulations, Ethan." My hands began to shake again. I opened the message and read it slowly, word by word. "We are pleased to inform you that you have been selected for the position. We were very impressed with your confidence, your clarity, and your communication style. Welcome to the team." I dropped the spoon. It clattered on the floor. I sat down on the kitchen floor and I cried. I didn't cry because I got a job. I cried because I had proven something to myself, something I had doubted for so many years. You don't have to be born into English. You can build English inside of you. And when you do, your life will never be the same again. 2 weeks later, I was sitting in a virtual meeting room with people from 5 different countries: India, Germany, the United States, Singapore, and Canada. Everyone was speaking English. It was fast, it was clear, it was natural. The old Ethan would have left the meeting, or he would have muted himself for the whole time. But this Ethan, the new Ethan, the real Ethan, he spoke. "Yes, I agree with that," I said, "but I think we should wait 1 more week before we launch the project. The customer feedback wasn't complete yet." That sentence might sound normal to you, but to me it was everything. Because those words, they came out of my mouth with 0 translation. No panic, no shame, no hiding, only confidence. And that's when I realized something huge. I am not learning English anymore. I am now living my life in English. Everything changed. Won my job. I now work with clients from all around the world. I attend meetings. I write professional emails. I solve complex problems. And I do all of this in English. Not because I'm the smartest person in the room, but because I kept showing up even when it was hard. To my friends, I have made real deep friendships with people from different countries. We talk, we laugh, we share our stories all in English. And it's beautiful. Because now I'm not just practicing English, I'm using it to connect heart to heart. 3. My confidence. I used to look down at the floor when someone spoke English to me. Now I look them in the eye. I used to stay silent in groups. Now I sometimes lead the conversations. I used to hate the sound of my own voice. Now I speak up in meetings, in groups, and in videos. Because English didn't just improve my speaking, it healed my confidence. It gave me a voice. And 4, my identity. I no longer say, I'm trying to learn English. So now I say, I am an English speaker. Because it's not about being perfect, it's about owning your progress. And I have earned that identity sentence by sentence, mistake by mistake, day by day. Now I want to tell you something from my heart. Not as a teacher, not as an expert, not as someone successful, but as someone who has walked the same road that you are walking right now. Please listen to me carefully, because this could change your life. 1 stop waiting to feel ready. You will never feel ready. You will always think, I need more vocabulary first. I need better grammar first. I need more confidence first. But the truth is, confidence comes after you break, not before. Fluency comes after you fail, not before. Growth comes after you begin, not before. So please stop waiting. Start speaking. Even if your voice shakes, even if you only know 50 words. Start now, too. Speak badly. Yes, you heard me. Speak badly. Say the wrong sentences. Make mistakes. Get stuck. But keep speaking. Because if you wait to be perfect, you will stay silent forever. The people who truly succeed in English are not the ones who are perfect. They are the ones who are brave. 3. You don't need a school. You need a system. You don't need to go to an expensive English class. You need a daily system that works for you. Here is the system I followed. Think in English. Describe everything around you. Speak to yourself, in the mirror in your head with your phone. Record yourself. Start with just 1 minute a day. Shadow native speakers. Repeat after videos. Use real English every day. No more fake textbook sentences. And don't stop. Not for 1 day. Not even when you feel bad. Do this, and I promise you in 6 months, your brain will start to change. And when your brain changes, your world changes. 4. You don't need motivation. You need a reason. Motivation fades. Your why is what keeps you going. So ask yourself right now, why do I want to speak English? What will it give me? What pain will it remove from my life? What dream will it bring closer? Hold that reason in your heart. Return to it every time you feel like giving up. And 5, you are not alone. I was just like you. I was scared. I was silent. I was ashamed. But I kept going. And now I am here speaking to you in English. Not because I am better than you, but because I refused to quit. And if I can do it, so can you. Remember, English is not just a language. It is a key. It opens doors you never imagined. It brings people together. It creates opportunities. It changes how the world sees you, and more importantly, how you see yourself. But the most beautiful thing that English gave me was freedom. The freedom to express myself, the freedom to connect with others, the freedom to live my life without fear. And that freedom is waiting for you too. If you are listening to this story, I want you to remember something forever. You are not too late. You are not too slow. You are not too old. You are not too broken. You are just one decision away from changing your life. The decision to start thinking in English, to stop translating, to start trusting yourself, to speak even when it is uncomfortable. You don't have to do everything today. You just have to do something today. And then again tomorrow. And one day, just like me, you will speak English without fear, and your life will never be the same again. This was my story. This was my journey. And now it's your turn. If this story touched your heart, if it gave you some hope, if it reminded you that you can speak English too, no matter where you start from, Then don't let this video end here. Let this be the beginning of something new for you. I create stories just like this to help you grow, learn, and believe in yourself. So if you want more stories that teach you English in a real, powerful, and emotional way, please subscribe to this channel. Not just for me, but for you. For your dream, for your journey, for your voice. And if this story helped you even a little bit, please like it and share it. Let someone else feel the same hope that you feel right now. Because one story can change a day. And sometimes one story can change a life. Thank you for listening. Keep going. I believe in you.